wanted to today share a bit about the metaverse and really come at it from a communications perspective and really talk about how we're going to communicate in the metaverse, the role blockchain will play, the role that telecommunications will play. And just really wanted to run through that. So I mean, let's start with the question, what is the metaverse? Right. So what is the metaverse? So the metaverse is a virtual reality space, um, an environment where you can interact with in a the environment and with other users. So we see early iterations of Axie Infinity for the younger ones, Roblox, but it's really this virtual world where humans are interacting in this virtual world. In gaming, they're playing games in this virtual world, they're owning assets in this virtual world, and eventually there'll be business and transactions in this virtual world. And blockchain obviously is playing a role in that, or is cited to play a big role because of the decentralized nature of it and the ability for peer-to-peer. But I also believe that telecommunications will play a role as well. So let's talk a bit about blockchain, metaverse, NFTs, DeFi, and what's been happening. So just putting this into context, the world population at the moment is 7.9 billion in 2020, and we're looking in 2024 at that population increasing to 8.1 billion, and then by 2034 we should have roughly 9 billion people. Now, bear in mind, maybe 100 years ago we had 2.5 billion. We're seeing a rapid increase in people. Also, one of the most important technologies or revolutions that we've had in communications over the past 25 years has been mobile phones. We now have 6.1 billion people in the population with a smartphone. By 2024, that's expected to go to 7.1 billion. And by 2034, we're expected to have over 8 billion people in an 8 billion people population with a smartphone. And we're expecting over that time, the metaverse to have an impact on what a phone is and how we communicate. So you can see in 24 that we're expecting, communications to be integrated with glasses or VR headsets. And then in 2034, we're expecting a seamless sort of phone experience where maybe the device is gone altogether. But that's size for the metaverse. And right now, in 2020, GDA Capital estimated that the metaverse was worth 487 billion. We're expecting by 2024, Bloomberg is saying the metaverse will be worth 800 billion. And by 2034, so that's in roughly 12 years' time, we're expecting a 10 trillion metaverse market size. And this is why we're starting to see a lot of the big players position themselves for the metaverse. On top of that, at the moment, 2021, at the end of 2021, the top 6 metaverse coins, so Decentraland and others, combined were worth 21 billion. So already some investment in there. And if you look at some of the components of the metaverse, like NFTs, tokens, tokenized real estate in the metaverse, crypto, DeFi, which will finance the metaverse. We saw that you had a NFT that sold for 91.8 million in 2021. This is the PAX merge, the merge. We had 2.4 million sale of virtual real estate on Decentraland, which is one of the key sort of metaverse protocols, and that was in the fashion district. We've got 3 trillion worth of tokens and cryptocurrencies circulating at the moment. And in DeFi, which I expect to be a key financer of the metaverse, we've got 240 billion locked in DeFi protocols. So there's a lot happening. There's a lot of there's a massive market opportunity. Population's growing, and we're already starting to see things in terms of metaverse tokens, NFTs, tokenized metaverse, real estate, cryptos, DeFi start to move in that right direction. Some of it being propelled by the October announcement of Facebook into the metaverse, and some of the key announcements just going through that. Facebook in October changed its name from Facebook to Meta. This is the parent company. Now, Facebook platform 2.6 billion users, and they are making an active move into the metaverse space and this virtual experience. We have NVIDIA with the announcements of the Omniverse, sort of bringing real world business and workflows into the metaverse space. And then recently, in the last week or so, we've had Microsoft announcing the purchase of Activision, who made Call of Duty, 69 billion acquisition. So there's some serious activity in this metaverse opportunity, and you've got to say to yourself, well, what is it? What is driving it? How is this going to work? And what role will blockchain and crypto tokenization, DeFi, and telecoms play going forward? So let's start with telecoms. So I wanted to sort of go with a journey with you to imagine, what making a call in the metaverse will be like. How will communications work in the metaverse? And basically, looking at this, I believe that going forwards, that the communications will be built into the devices. So AR glasses, I expect those to refine and get smaller, be in contact lenses going forwards. But I expect that the mobile phone handset, as we know it, will disappear. But the communications based on SIMs or iSIMs or even other types of connectivity will be seamlessly built into the virtual reality hardware that we use to communicate with the metaverse. At the moment, I think the thing that we can look at is an AR glasses and integration of cellular technology into that. Now you can see that the cellular technology that we're talking about is slightly enhanced. So on top of a normal sort of SIM cellular connectivity here, you'll have a bridge to various blockchains, blockchain platforms like Ethereum, where you can anchor the identity. So you can have decentralized identity, which is linked to your phone number or your private key. And also you'll have an integration of a wallet or a link to different wallets, which can essentially lock your ID with your tokens or that you hold, and of course that will allow you to sell your data, buy and sell your data as well. So I'm expecting that the communications will start to build in these items, and then you're looking at different forms of communication in the metaverse. So one of them is in the metaverse. I may have a VR headset on, you may have a VR headset, and you've got this line here, which is the physical to physical communication in the metaverse. And what that's basically saying is, look, I'm collaborating with you, or I'm playing a game with you, and essentially we can use normal cellular technology to do that. And that is much the same of it. We both got a phone number, we both got a digital ID, which is linked to that. We both got a wallet, and we can both we can both start to communicate in that way. You may have coming up sort of direct translation, so that globally, if you're someone speaking in different languages, the translation can be real time. We're not there yet, so you can have that in text more easily than voice. But I'm expecting that will start to be built into the applications that's built on that. And I'm expecting that 5G will play a key role in terms of that. In terms of the virtual to the physical to virtual, where you essentially put your VR headset on and you're communicating with an avatar in the metaverse. I'm expecting that still, the virtual person will be linked to some sort of real world ID via a phone number or another ID type, so that essentially, you can communicate with someone in the virtual world if you're in the physical world, but you have an ID which basically makes what you're doing linked to real things. So the key thing about sort of RegTech and KYC, etc., is that if you want to buy something, there's a verification, or you can trace back who that person is. If you want to transact something, you can verify or trace that back. And I think the digital identity linked to something like a phone number would be a way of doing that. And then you have the digital to digital, and this is where essentially you're having in virtual world communications, which would not involve cellular technology, can be different messaging, voice communication types, and that's some of the sort of communication protocols that are being worked out at the moment. But I just wanted to share this picture, just showing how we're looking at communications evolving for the metaverse, and then talking about how that will work. So once you've got that, essentially, you start to be able to bridge, sort of the nice experience metaverse into the real world business. So if I'm in the metaverse and I need to link with a supply chain to have something delivered in the physical world, then essentially, there's no reason why connected devices, in smart cities, can't be represented in the virtual world via digital twinning. So that essentially I can track the delivery via a truck of a good that I've ordered in the virtual world to the physical world, and vice versa. You will have delivery supply chains in the virtual world. So it's really interesting to see, how can I get something delivered in the real world and in the virtual world, and how does that work? I think that these are some of the things that NVIDIA were talking about in terms of extending workflows to factories, etc. And then you've got the virtual factories, which are maybe some of the generative protocols that are producing clothing and art, which can be held necessarily in both worlds. But then I wanted to talk about how this comes together. So essentially, if you break the metaverse down into a framework, I think there's 6 key components. So one of them is the sort of digital experience layer, which there's a lot of focus on. So things like AR, AI, VR, identity, blockchain. These components are basically, if you look at gaming, Axie Infinity, etc., it's all about how you can have this immersive experience and the hardware to do that and the identity to enter that world. And I think there's a lot of emphasis, on that layer. Then you have the translation to the physical world. So there's a lot of emphasis now that we're seeing big brands, Adidas, Nike, H&M, open stores, Louis Vuitton open stores in the in the so-called metaverse. I don't know which one because there's many metaverses at the moment, but opening stores in the metaverse. And there's got to be a link to the real world, because if you are transacting something even in the metaverse, you have to have custody jurisdiction. There needs to be KYC, all of these things, so that ownership can be registered. And that's where you have the translation to the real world. And will we start to see a position where somebody buys something in a fashion district on Decentraland, and somehow that's represented in the real world, or vice versa? If I buy some real estate in the real world, then that will be automatically registered, or have the option to buy the same thing in the digital world. And that's the real world translation. One aspect of that could be 3D printing. So if I buy an item, in the virtual world, then part of that experience could be that I can print it out. 3D printed if it's a bigger item, print it, if it's art. But there will be some experiences where you want to have the item in both the virtual and physical worlds. The other one is the wallets. So you still have, in some cases, to on-ramp and off-ramp value that's transacted in the metaverse. That will, in some cases, involve a wallet with a private key in the physical world, which could be mirrored in the virtual world. You have blockchain, which is essentially acting as a decentralized bridge between both digital identity. You have social media, physical stores, which can essentially be gateways for the virtual world, the mobile phone, etc. And essentially, in these things, you're saying, okay, how does that physical world communicate with the virtual world. And I think blockchain will be key in the sense of acting as a distributed ledger, which is crossing both. But I also think that the communications, the mobile phone, will be key, not just as a touch point to use virtual world applications, but also I think in terms of identity. Your mobile phone can be an identity that could be a part of your digital identity that can work in both, and in the physical world that can then trace back to authenticate who you are and your credentials, where that's required in a decentralized, self-sovereign way. And then you have essentially the financing of the metaverse. So the third layer is financing it. Now, one of the exciting things about the metaverse is now when you look at what's happening in play to earn gaming, is the translation of or the transaction of value. So I can now own something in a game, and I can start to transact that with others in a game. I can store it. I can exchange it, and that is starting to form a sort of metaverse or gaming economy, which will be part of a metaverse economy, which can lead to financing. So in the future, could we see DeFi being used to finance the purchase of assets in the metaverse? I think we can. Couldn't DeFi, finance a gaming NFT? Could it finance a piece of land on Decentraland? Could you pay that back with your play to earn gaming revenue? So I think there's some exciting financing models where you start to bridge some of the finance disruption that we're having with DeFi and blockchain-based finance, crypto, with the sort of metaverse, and you're getting a new sort of economic and business model there. And then the other thing is the traditional world. Are we seeing banks enter this space, and central banks with CBDCs, which are sort of on the cards to start playing a big role in the real economy, entering soon? And I think if you look at that, you've got central bank digital currencies. So there's a lot of movement. I think 71 countries are working on that at the moment. But also recently, we're seeing announcements by Visa, Barclaycard, PayPal. All of the big banks are starting to move into be facilitating the purchase of crypto, pay with crypto. And I think the next move will be gearing up for token transactions in the metaverse. The other side is data. So what is going to be the real asset that is translated in the metaverse? So part of that will be services. You can play to earn. You can have NFTs, art, icons. Other things can be transacted. But really, I think there'll be a mesh of real world data, virtual world data, financial data, which will essentially drive how this metaverse evolves and will be a currency that transacts. And I think obviously AI will play a big role in that, but so will identity tokens for exchange of that data. And I see that as a big component. In terms of the business, do we foresee that in the metaverse, you will just have a direct translation of the retail experience and the social media experience that you have now? I think that would be a shame because with such a new framework, with such a new experience, with such new capabilities, I think that we're going to see whole new business models. And I think we're starting to see new business, so things like the DAO coming on board, which essentially, decentralized organizations, with a firm governance model, which I think will play a key role in the metaverse, or may in fact govern the metaverse itself. But I'm also seeing that things like digital identities may give rise to new forms of flexible businesses that can drive this. And I think there's going to be massive business opportunity. If you go back to the sort of figures, 10 trillion by 2034, so 12 years time, we're going to have a sort of 10 trillion industry. There's going to be a lot of opportunity for new business types in collaboration, virtual, physical, to come about. Not just gaming. I'm seeing that sort of gaming model, play to earn, etc. Move to real retail, real experiences. So I think that's exciting. And then the other thing is ecosystem. So So there's been a lot of discussion recently about the role of social media, the role of real world companies entering the metaverse, and whether essentially the metaverse should be centralized, whether it should be decentralized, whether the metaverse, whether there'll be one metaverse, whether there'll be many metaverses, or essentially whether it will be a hybrid of both of those. Will banking in the metaverse be the big banking names we see in the real world, or will they be the DeFi protocols, or will they be a mesh of both of them? Will social media own this? Will governments own this? And I think for me, I think the metaverse has to be decentralized. I think the technology is there. But I also believe that the social media ecosystems, I think there's nearly 4 billion users on social media can drive this to an extent, but they can't own it. And I also think that the 6.3 billion mobile phone users, is part of the ecosystem that can drive this as well. But for me, I think that the decentralized backbone that we're seeing driving blockchain, crypto, and DeFi, when you start linking that with digital identity, when you start linking that with a bigger population of users, will be critical to this. So that was sort of what I wanted to sort of cover on this. And in essence, the point I'm getting at is that there's a massive, the metaverse is the most exciting technological discussion point at the moment. The opportunity is absolutely massive. I think there's a big, I think it's going to redefine communications. And I think communication starts to be linked with identity and commerce. I think you're going to see a big convergence of how our supply chain, retail experiences, wholesale experiences work to incorporate that virtual world and those sort of experiences. And also the sharing economy, collaboration will start to play a bigger role. But also I'm seeing that a new framework incorporating new types of finance, business, economy, identity, will start to emerge, and we're going to start seeing that over the next 2 years accelerating with investment. So I'll probably leave that there. Hopefully that was useful, and I'm willing to take any questions on that now. So I look at the first one. So digital twelve in healthcare, metaverse for sure. So Chloe, in terms of digital twins, I think this is massive, and I don't think it's getting in a lot of coverage. So if we look at it, IoT, I think in the next 5 to 7 years we're expecting 70 billion connected devices, and that will be absolutely critical that the data from those devices are part of the metaverse first, and they're already part of digital twins. And for example, how can I track my truck delivery of my goods that are being that I bought in the metaverse that I want to copy in the real world to my door? How can I again track the other way? Extend the supply chain the other way. So I think. So I think that will be key going forwards. 2 years for acceleration. Yeah, I'm seeing that there's a big buzz. I mean, if we look at, so this is for Trish. If we look at the last year or the last 2 years, where we look at the sort of crypto winter, it's going to be really interesting. Who would have thought that we would have a new financial system on DeFi that happened in a year that now has 240 billion locked in? I think the investment in metaverse is even more because you've got the big mainstream names. DeFi happened against the odds, right? None of the big names were in it. In fact, they were stopping it. You couldn't advertise on social media. Now you have Facebook with 2.4 billion people. You've got Microsoft. You've got everybody moving into this metaverse. And I think the acceleration in the 2 years with the investment is going to be absolutely massive. I think some of the technology is not there yet, but we're going to see iterations of it happen over the next 2 years. The obstacles to the metaverse, again, I think there are some obstacles in the sense that some of the technology is not there. We don't know what the metaverse is going to be. Will it be one? Who's going to own it? How will it reflect the real world? How will the legal world work with that? How can you have a decentralized real world with government, centralized banks, centralized legal systems, borders and everything when you have a decentralized metaverse? And I think there's going to be a battle over the coming years for what that metaverse looks like we had with the internet. So I think those are some of the barriers, but I think the business opportunity of 10 trillion will sort that out. A crypto crash? I don't think it does. So I think the crypto crash, Bobby, was, we've had many of them. I think if you look at the cycle, anyone who's holding crypto now, we tend to buy the dip. But there's many crashes, and my argument is that it's not based on fundamentals. If you look at Ethereum, if you look at Uniswap, if you look at a lot of the projects, they're actually making money, right? Uber's not making money, but these guys are actually making money. So the crypto crash is not reflecting fundamentals. It's reflecting the sort of wider speculative investment market. But long term, I think the fundamentals, when you look at the NFTs on Ethereum, when you look at DeFi on Ethereum, are very positive. So I'm not expecting it to affect anything. Play to earn gaming, I think is shaping the way, and I'm very, very excited about it. I think the parallel ecosystem, Gustav. So if we're creating a parallel ecosystem in the metaverse, how do you vision power from physical world, policies, regulation? I think you just got to drive it through. So I think what we're seeing now with Decentraland, they're not raiding for regulation. They're just getting on with the protocol, and I think regulation will catch up. I think if we wait for regulation, we'll be here for 5 years. So Trish, Walmart entering the metaverse and claiming they'll start their own crypto, which would have to be centralized. So there will be, when you see the incentives of 10 trillion in 12 years, there will be battles for the metaverse, as I said before. And you'll have a lot of the big organizations, social media, retailers trying to own it. I think the positive of the big companies is that it's bringing the right sort of investment and it's bringing the right sort of attention. But ultimately, you can't have one organization or social media company owning the metaverse. It's going to be too powerful. And this is where I think DAOs, blockchain, decentralization will level the playing field. What do you think will start? So this is, what do you think will start better, GameFi metaverse? So I'm just sort of going through this. So decentralized metaverse is being centralized by Microsoft. Agreed. Again, the Microsoft announcement, the Facebook announcement, there is a play to centralize the metaverse. But if you look at the framework that I brought up, the fundamentals of it, how it's financed, the identity, can only really work with a decentralized framework. Ethereum has grown, DeFi has grown, NFTs have grown in a decentralized way, because of the power of decentralizations and the underlying technologies, and I expect the same to happen for the metaverse. So I think we'll see some noise, but I think if you look at it, all of these organizations are now looking at blockchain, and they will move towards a public blockchain as we move forwards. In terms of Trish, employment, will it change employment? I think yes. So I think if you look at it, play to earn gaming, and some of the sort of other play to earn and influencers, even on social media, are changing the way things work. And I think that you'll see a shift of people being able to earn money in the virtual world, the physical world, or a combination of both. When you look at that, I see people more as businesses and not being employed going forwards. And I've got this concept in my head of a virtual business where essentially people can pool their identities together to enter into temporary business contracts or address things in the metaverse or the virtual world or both. And I think we're going to see new forms of people engaging in business and employment from this for sure.
David, do you hear us from...
Where should we start on the metaverse? Web3, NFT, DeFi? I think all of those good stuff. Delang. Yeah. So yeah, ping me on that. But I see I see DeFi as a key means of raising funds for metaverse projects. happy to connect with any of you on LinkedIn as well. So I probably will stop there because I'm over time. Really excited, but what I wanted to bring was a wider perspective, because what we're seeing on LinkedIn at the moment, and other social media, are the people in glasses, and this sort of experience. So I think that plays into the social media hands, but the metaverse isn't about that. Now I'm seeing the metaverse as as a sort of application and experience layer to blockchain and that whole decentralized world that we have. So when you actually look at it, what's underpinning or underpinning it? Let's not forget the business side. Let's not forget how virtual experience will work with the physical world. Let's not forget how we'll interact. So our identities, how we'll communicate, how our identities will be translated, how we'll sign for things. Um, and agree for things in the metaverse, how we'll transact, how we'll get finance, and the new business models that are there. And that's what I really wanted to sort of highlight. So, guys, really, I'm over time, but I've really enjoyed talking to you. And my LinkedIn profile should be there. Just reach out to me, if you want to talk further. I'm happy to discuss. I've really enjoyed this. Thank you.